Welcome back to College Football Addiction. Hopefully you enjoyed the title on this one. Anytime I pick against somebody or really even just have a guest on, people like to call you names, biased, idiot, hater, homer, whatever. I have very few rooting interests other than I'd love to see overtime in about 7 of these games this weekend. But thanks to BetUS, you can bet on all these games online. We'll talk about that here shortly, but I'm going to pick every single conference championship game, not just the Power Four, not just the ones that impact the playoffs. We're going to pick the 3 that happen tonight and then everything that happens tomorrow as well. If you enjoy this content, do me a favor and hit the subscribe button. If you don't, leave me a comment and let me know how big of an idiot I am. All right, we will spend more time on the games that do impact the playoffs, what we kind of think or expect there. So we'll quickly go through some of the other ones. Tulane and Army. I just think Tulane's going to be too much for Army. It's hard to gauge service academies. And I wouldn't be surprised if this is a game for about a half. I think Tulane figures it out late. They cover the 4.5 spread. I think they bounced back from their rough game last week where they took themselves out of it by losing. I do think Tulane covers and maybe wins going away. Give me Tulane by about 10. Conference USA, as a Liberty grad, I don't know how many of you knew that. Certainly some of you FSU folks already knew that. But as a Liberty grad, a little bit upset that they couldn't handle their own business, take care of business this year with some kind of inexplicable losses and find themselves in this Conference USA championship. I like Jacksonville State here. Western Kentucky's been a fun team. Obviously, their offense is fun. But I do think Jacksonville State just a little bit more solid. Give me them to not only win, but cover the 4 points in their game. Boise State and UNLV, obviously huge implications here, huge ramifications for this one. I like Boise State to win this. I think UNLV does cover though. So if I'm betting on it, give me UNLV plus 4.5. I do think Genty will show out. I think he'll have over 200 yards. I think he'll have a couple of touchdowns. If you can find a line for his rushing total over 150 or over 175, I think they're going to pound the rock. I think they're going to feed him a lot. I think they're going to try and take some of the air out of the ball by running it to keep the ball out of UNLV's high-powered go-go offense, out of their hands. And so give me all the Genty props. Probably not a bad idea to always take all the Genty props. But Boise State, 4.5 though. I do think UNLV keeps it a little bit closer. I think both these are really fun offenses. I think this will be the game of the night. I do think Tulane Army, Jacksonville State, Western Kentucky could be fun, but Boise State, UNLV, to me, obviously all the implications, all the playoff ramifications that come with it, certainly going to be the most fun game tonight. I hope when we get to sit down and watch conference championship Friday night. DD used to like the Pac-12 championships on Friday night. Always fun. Stinks that that's no longer a thing, but I did used to like those a ton, and so I think we do kind of have a more generic feel on this Friday night championship night, but Boise State UNLV, with what that game means, could certainly be a lot of fun. Then we get to Saturday, probably the most intriguing of all the games, Arizona State and Iowa State. Right now, Arizona State, a 1.5 point favorite. We had Drake C. Toll on to talk about this game, and he ended up rolling with Arizona State, and I think I'll do the same. It's just so hard to bet against Kenny Dillingham. Iowa State might be a little bit more of a complete team. They certainly have had their struggles, but Arizona State to me feels hotter. They feel like they've got all the momentum. They feel like they've got all of really the entire country cheering them on and wanting them to do well. Not that impacts what happens in the 60 minutes of a football game, but they just feel like the team of destiny here in the Big 12. And I think at the end of the day, it is Scatterboo. I think it's that team holding up the trophy, making the college football playoff. I do think this game is going to be a ton of fun. I love how there's not another big game until 4 p.m., so we should see this in its entirety. I know there's other games going on earlier before Texas and Georgia kickoff, but I do like how these games are stacked because I do think this noon kickoff, this 12 o'clock kick Eastern time for Arizona State versus Iowa State is going to be phenomenal. Give me the fighting Kenny Dillinghams in this one. I have made no bones about being a Kenny Dillingham homer, and I'll continue that by picking them to cover the spread at 1.5 against Iowa State. Now, listen, you can bet on all these games right now over at BetUS. You can use our code YouTube150 to get 150% bonus on your first deposit. You get 125% on your next 2 deposits, all of that up to $2,000. cut that video off real quick so you can't see what the rest of these picks are. But I did go and bet on all of these that I'm giving you. Good luck to you. If you want to tail me or fade me, see who wins between me or you. Comment some of your picks below of who you think wins some of these games. So far, again, we've got Tulane covering, Jacksonville State covering, UNLV covering, but Boise State winning, Arizona State covering the 1.5, winning their Big 12 championship. And then we're not going to the SEC just yet. Miami of Ohio is a 2-point favorite against Ohio. They're in the MAC. Sneaky underrated game. Again, should be super close. No championship games this weekend. More than a 5.5-point spread. We'll talk about that 5.5-point spread in just a moment. Another sneaky underrated good game. But the last MACtion of the year, I think you're going to roll with Miami, Ohio of this one. Give them the 2 points to cover, and I do think they win that MAC championship. Then we do get to the big one, the one that everybody wants to talk about. I get it. We've previewed it from both sides. Texas and Georgia. Texas, a 3-point favorite against the Bulldogs. Again, Kirby getting to preach that underdog message, something that I think he absolutely relishes. I think Georgia's playing a little bit better football right now. We spoke with both Jerry Hamilton of On Texas Football and Graham Coffey of Dog Central. And I do agree. I do think that Texas is going to play better in this game. I think they'll be more competitive than they were in the game in Austin. Hopefully bottles stay off the field and we really just have confetti flying after the game. But Texas, though I do think they're playing, I think Texas is playing better than they were then. I still think that Georgia is just in these championship games, in these massive moments. I do think there's something to Georgia playing a little bit better, elevating their game a little bit under Kirby Smart. I think Georgia wins this. I think they cover the 3 points. I think it's incredibly close. I think it's a touchdown game either way. I don't see this getting to a 2-3 score blowout, kind of like the game in Austin got to. I do think it's closer, but I do think that Georgia, man, give me them on the money line. Give me them with the points, however you want to take them. I think Beck is playing a little bit better these last few weeks. Now, could he regress very quickly against a good Texas defense? Absolutely. But I think that Georgia is just, there's just something about UGA playing in these big games. They usually show up. Now, I understand how the Alabama game went. I understand they dropped to Ole Miss. But man, when rubber really meets the road, they show up, and Texas is going to have to prove it to me before I'm willing to pick them just yet. I don't want to buy so much into the soft schedule, but I do look at who Texas has played this year and how they've looked against that schedule. And I just don't know that I'm all the way sold. I think the payback factor is big in this for Texas. I do think that coming into the SEC and winning it year one, though, that'd create some amazing storylines, and some SEC haters could have some field days with it. I just don't know if it's enough for Texas. How well does Quinn Ewers play? If you could tell me quarterback stat lines for Beck and Ewers, I could probably tell you who was going to win this game. That's pretty apparent. But who plays better? Two quarterbacks that haven't been, at their best at times this year, certainly weren't at their best when they played each other. I'm going to lean Georgia here. I love them with the points. You're giving me Georgia plus money. I'll probably take them on the money line as well. And then we got two big matchups later. But before we get to those, Louisiana Lafayette, a 5.5-point favorite against Marshall. Billy Napier built this program up over at Louisiana Lafayette, and they have continued to be really good. I actually think they win this, and I think they win it going away against Marshall. 5.5 points. Give me the Raging Cajuns in this one to cover the spread and win the Sun Belt Conference Championship. Now the big two. We previewed this one from both sides. The ACC Championship, Clemson and SMU. Clemson, certainly the more experienced team in games like this and playing in big-time matchups. They've played a much tougher schedule, I think, than SMU has. No shots at SMU. And, Cade has won this thing before, right? And Dabo's obviously won it several times. I do think that helps Clemson. I do think the bright lights of not Dallas this time, but the bright lights of Charlotte in the ACC Championship is something to think about for SMU. Will they be completely ready? Will the bright lights get to them? I actually think they won't. I think SMU wins this. I think SMU covers this 2.5 points. All the talk about, well, if SMU loses, what does that do for Bama? And does that, put two SEC or ACC teams in and knock Alabama? I don't think it matters. I think SMU goes in and wins. Certainly, my confidence on this one is not super high because I think that Clemson is a very capable team, a team that could certainly come in and win this thing, especially being so close to home, playing with so much talent, playing an SMU team that has taken care of business this year, but again, against maybe a weaker schedule. SMU has looked better against the teams that Clemson has played against. SMU looked better against Florida State. SMU looked better against Pitt. SMU looked better against Louisville. But it's still Clemson, and it's still the ACC championship, and they've dominated this conference for about the last decade or so. And so it's hard to pick against Clemson, but that's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to take SMU to win. Confidence level fairly low. At the end of the day, Clemson just has not played well against good teams this year. And you may not think SMU is an elite team. You may not think they're a national championship level team, but they are a good team. And Clemson has not played well against good teams all year. That leads me to side with SMU. This is the pick that I would say I'm the least confident in. So that's not a shot at SMU. I'm picking you guys, but man, Clemson has been there, done that. And I do think that they probably fall to SMU this weekend, but not that they couldn't come out with the win. And then the last game of the weekend, Oregon is a 3.5-point favorite against Penn State. This is the trickiest line of the week to me. Obviously, that hook in there makes you kind of pause a little bit if you want to bet that down to 3 just to kind of give yourself a little bit of insurance. Certainly wouldn't say that that's a bad idea by any means, but this line opened up at 3.5, and everybody's been on Oregon all week, and it has stayed there. So I don't know if Vegas is telling you something or thinks that James Franklin and the boys have a chance. This is the only big game of the Power Four that we didn't do a preview from either side on, or an overall preview. And so just some quick thoughts. I do think that Oregon's offense, when up and going, could certainly get things done. I picked Oregon to go 12-0 this year and then lose this game to Ohio State. Obviously, didn't expect Michigan to win the game at the end of the year. And so if not, obviously, this would have been against Ohio State, and I probably would have rolled with that pick just because it would have been easier. What makes this tough is I don't have a lot of faith in Penn State in this game. However, their defense certainly does show up in big games, and I think that if Penn State can avoid mistakes, this game can be really, really close. I'm going to ride with Oregon. I'm going to take them with the points. I'm going to take the 3.5 points for them to cover by that much. But, man, I really would prefer to bet this down to just -3, get rid of that hook in case it goes to overtime, in case it's close late and you do need a field goal. I think Oregon wins. I think Oregon gets that overall number 1 seed, gets to 13-0, but I don't have, this is kind of close to the Clemson game, Clemson SMU, where I don't have just a crazy amount of confidence in it. I have the confidence that Oregon wins. I don't know that I feel great about the spread. I don't know that I feel great about the 3.5 points. I will just bite the bullet and take the 3.5 points. Give me Oregon to cover. So a quick recap. Tulane, JSU, UNLV covers but loses. Arizona State, Miami of Ohio, UGA covers and wins. UL Lafayette covers and wins. SMU covers and wins. And Oregon covers and wins. Less confident about those last two, but those should be some of the more fun games of the day there at 8 p.m., both of them on Saturday night. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know where I'm a big homer, where I'm a big hater, where I'm a big idiot. Always appreciate those comments. And again, appreciate BetUS. If you want to bet on any of these games, you can go do that over at BetUS. Use our code YouTube150. Appreciate you guys. Enjoy championship weekend. It's sad that the games are coming to an end. The season's coming to an end, but we got a lot to talk about when it comes to the playoffs and everything else on Sunday. So make sure you're locked in with College Football Addiction.